Welcome back. In this video we open Ron Weasley's 6th year diary at Hogwarts, an audiobook sleep story that drifts through a year when everything tightens and turns. Ron's 6th year diary tracks a tightening arc, OWL aftermath, Snape taking defense and drilling non-verbal magic, and Slughorn's return with his Slug Club. Quidditch and friendships run in parallel. Ron earns and keeps the keeper spot, Gryffindor lifts the cup with Ginny at Seeker while Harry sits detention, and the Lavender-Hermione tension finally resolves as Harry and Ginny begin dating. The Half-Blood Prince text boosts Harry in potions but darkens with Sectum Semperon Malfoy. The book is stashed in the Room of Requirement, and with a little Felix, Slughorn's true memory surfaces. Threats press in, Katie Bell's cursed necklace, via an Imperious Rosmerta, the poisoned mead, and, blending film and book, the Burrow attack at Christmas. The year closes hard. Malfoy opens the door to Death Eaters, Dumbledore's cave mission ends in his death at Snape's hand, the funeral follows, and on July 2nd Ron decides to skip 7th year to join Harry and Hermione in the hunt for Voldemort's Horcruxes. If you're settling in, tap like now so you can find this sleep story tomorrow. And his other years, 1st through 5th, are already on my channel for your next bedtime listen. One more thing, the image on screen is from the films. Drop your guess in the comments for the exact scene and movie. Ready? Let's turn the first page. The 12th of August, 1996. OWL results came today. Thought I was going to be sick when the owl dropped the envelope on the table. Sat staring at it while everyone else opened theirs. Ginny kept telling me to hurry up, but I figured the longer I waited, the longer I could pretend maybe I'd done alright. Finally opened it, hand shaking like I'd just grabbed a live blast-ended Scroot. 5. That's what I got. 5 OWLS. Mum nearly crushed me in a hug, saying she was proud of me and that it was more than enough to get by. Of course, I heard her muttering about Percy under her breath afterwards. Percy got 12, as if I needed reminding. Percy's not even speaking to us anymore, so what's the point in bringing him up? Fred and George were there too, grinning like a pair of measles. Said I should have got an OWL in eating, or maybe sleeping. Said they'd print me a certificate in their shop if I wanted. Very funny. I told them at least I passed potions, which shut them up for a moment. Honestly, I thought Snape would have failed me just to spite me. Can't believe I managed an eke in that. Probably a mistake, but I'm not telling anyone. Charms was A, Transfiguration the same, and Care of magical creatures too. Defense was an E, which I'll give full credit to Harry for. If it weren't for him teaching us in the DA, I'd have failed that one for sure. I could almost hear him in my head during the practical exam, shouting disarm. Ginny snorted when she saw my results, said she'd probably beat me next year. She's probably right, which is the annoying part. She's better at spells than she lets on. Mum says she's got talent, I say she's got a wicked bat bogey hex, which is more than enough. So, yeah. 5 OWLS. I suppose it's not bad, really. Not brilliant either. Harry will probably end up with more than me, and Hermione, well, no point even thinking about it. She'll have a dozen and make me feel like a troll. Sometimes I wonder if that's just how it'll always be. Harry the famous one, Hermione the clever one, and me tagging along in the middle. Good enough, but never great. Still, Mum said she was proud. That's something. The 16th of August, 1996. Mad day today. Dumbledore came to the house. Actually came here, to the Burrow. Don't think I've ever seen Mum so flustered, she nearly dropped a pan when he stepped through the door. Even Dad stood up straighter, like he was meeting the Minister of Magic himself. Fred and George were tripping over themselves to look impressive, which only made them look daft. And of course he had Harry with him. Trust Harry to show up at our place with Dumbledore like it's the most normal thing in the world. Oh, hello, just popped by with the most powerful wizard alive. Hope you don't mind. Harry looked better than I expected, though still a bit peaky. He seemed glad to be here, which was nice. We've always said the Burrow's like his second home, but sometimes I forget what his real home's like. Makes me feel guilty for grumbling about Mum nagging me all the time. Ginny was all smiles when he walked in. Honestly, I don't know why she bothers pretending she's over him. She lit up like a lantern. Fred and George noticed too, because they kept elbowing each other and winking. I'm not sure whether Harry caught on, but I hope not. Would be weird. Dumbledore didn't stay long, but when he left, the whole place felt different. Like he'd brought in a bit of Hogwarts with him. Even the gal in the attic went quiet for a while, like he knew something important had just happened. After tea, Harry and I went up to my room. Talked a bit about OWLS, Quidditch, stuff like that. He didn't seem too fussed about my results, just said 5 was decent. Decent. Better than good enough, I suppose. He told me about Dumbledore's trip to Slughorns, too. Seems the old professor's collecting people like chocolate frog cards. Bet he'll want Harry for his collection, he always does. Anyway, it's good having Harry back. The house feels fuller, in a good way. The 20th of August, 1996. News today, Fudge is out. He's been sacked as minister, and now we've got Rufus Scrimgeour in charge. Dad read it straight from the Daily Prophet at breakfast. Big front page picture of Scrimgeour looking like a grumpy old lion with that mane of hair. Mum said it might be a good thing, having someone stronger in charge. Dad snorted into his tea. He reckoned Scrimgeour's no better than Fudge, just better at looking like he's got things under control. According to Dad, the ministry's still in a mess, Death Eaters everywhere, people vanishing, and no one really knows who to trust. He says Scrimgeour's the sort who'll spend more time making people feel safe than actually doing anything about it. Fred and George didn't care much. Said business is booming whether Fudge or Scrimgeour's in office. They made a joke about owling the new minister a few skiving snack boxes to help him dodge meetings. Mum nearly hexed them across the room. Harry didn't say much about it. Just looked thoughtful in that way he does, like he already knows what's coming. He doesn't trust the ministry at all, not since last year. Can't blame him. If they'd listened to him about Voldemort instead of calling him a liar, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess now. Ginny asked if Scrimgeour was an Auror, and Dad said he was head of the Auror office before. That got Harry's attention. You could see it in his face, he respects Aurors more than politicians. Bet he's wondering if Scrimgeour's going to try cozying up to him like everyone else does. Wouldn't surprise me. Harry's the ministry's favorite poster boy when they want him to be. Me, I don't know. Scrimgeour looked fierce in the photo, but I can't tell if that's good or bad. Sometimes fierce just means stubborn. Either way, it doesn't change much for us. The Barrow still feels like the safest place in the world, unless Mum's in one of her moods. The 31st of August, 1996. We went to Diagon Alley today for school things, and it was mental. Half the shops were shut up tight, boards across the windows, signs warning people to be careful. The whole place looked gloomier than usual. Except for one spot, of course, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. You could hear the shop before you even got close. Packed with people, bright lights, fireworks going off indoors, and Mum looking like she might faint at the sight of it all. Fred and George had huge grins plastered across their faces, showing everyone the latest tricks. It's strange, seeing them like proper businessmen instead of just troublemakers. Even stranger that people actually pay them to cause chaos. Mum kept muttering about responsibility and safety, but I think she was proud. She didn't say it, but I saw her smiling when she thought no one was looking. Harry looked impressed. He kept picking things up, asking how they worked. Ginny bought some shield cloaks. Hermione said the whole thing was borderline genius, which made the twins beam even more. Outside, though, it wasn't so cheerful. Knockturn Alley looked deserted, and even Flourish and Blotts was half empty. It felt like everyone was scared to be out. There were Ministry patrols too, strutting about like they were keeping order, though they looked more nervous than anyone. And then there was Malfoy. We spotted him slipping off alone while his mother and the rest of the Death Eater set were busy. Harry, of course, went charging after, dragging us along. We ended up tailing him into Borgin and Burke's of all places. Typical Malfoy. He was talking to Borgin about keeping something safe and making sure it was repaired. Wouldn't say what it was, though. He acted all high and mighty, flashing the dark mark on his arm like he owned the place. At least, Harry swears he saw it. I didn't get a proper look. Hermione told Harry he was imagining things, that Malfoy couldn't possibly be a Death Eater. I wasn't sure. He did look suspicious, and Malfoy's the type to brag if he was up to something important. But Death Eaters? He's 16. Feels mad to think about, but then, Harry's right most of the time, isn't he? Anyway, school starts tomorrow. After today, I've got a feeling this year's not going to be ordinary, not that any year at Hogwarts ever is. The 1st of September, 1996. Back to Hogwarts today. Always feels strange, leaving the burrow behind. Mum cried, of course, she does every year, even though it's not like we're going off to Azkaban. She made such a fuss at King's Cross, kissing all of us, even Ginny, and trying to straighten my jumper while the twins laughed their heads off. I swear, if she had her way she'd march onto the train with me and tuck me into a seat. The train was as mad as always, full of people shouting and owls screeching. We crammed into a compartment, me, Harry, Hermione, and Ginny. Felt good, all of us together again, though I noticed Hermione kept giving Harry these looks whenever he mentioned Malfoy. Harry's convinced Malfoy's up to something. Said he saw him in Borgin and Burke's with Borgin himself, acting all secretive. Hermione rolled her eyes and said Malfoy's too young to be a Death Eater, but Harry wouldn't let it go. Then Slughorn made his rounds. Big belly, walrus moustache, acting like he owned the train. He invited Harry and Ginny to sit with him. Ginny! She tried to wriggle out of it, but he wasn't having it. Hermione went too, of course. I didn't get asked. Not that I wanted to, sitting with Slughorn sounds worse than double potions, but it stung a bit, all the same. Fred and George said he collects people, uses them, like trading cards. He clearly thinks Harry's the rarest of the lot. So it was just me for a while, sitting there, trying not to look like a complete spare part. When they came back, Harry was in a mood. He'd spent half the time being shown off like some kind of prize hippogriff. Hermione thought it was fascinating, naturally. She said Slughorn was well connected and useful to know. Useful to her, maybe. Later in the trip, Harry vanished under his cloak. We didn't notice straight away, but when we realized, Ginny was furious. Hermione too, though in a different way, more worried than angry. Turned out he'd gone sneaking after Malfoy, who disappeared with his lot earlier. Typical Harry. Can't let Malfoy scratch his nose without thinking it's part of some evil plot. Trouble is, this time it actually was something dodgy. Malfoy slipped into a compartment with Crabbe and Goyle standing guard outside like trolls. Harry managed to get in under the cloak, but he didn't come back. When the train stopped, everyone piled out, but no Harry. My stomach dropped. Thought maybe Malfoy had killed him or something. We found out later what really happened. Malfoy knew someone was listening, waited until Harry was under the cloak, then hexed him stiff and broke his nose for good measure. Left him sprawled under the seat like luggage. Malfoy's always been cruel, but that was low, even for him. Thank Merlin for Tonks. She was on patrol or something, and she found Harry crumpled there after the train emptied. Carried him off and fixed his nose. We didn't see him until we were at the castle. He looked furious, embarrassed too. Hermione fussed over him, of course, while Ginny gave him this look, half worried, half cross. I just told him he was a prat for doing it alone. He didn't argue. Anyway, that's how the year started. Malfoy's already up to something, Harry's already in trouble, and I'm already behind on snacks. Someone nicked all the pumpkin pasties before I got to the trolley. Brilliant! The 2nd of September, 1996. Snape swept in, shut the door with a flick, and chalked non-verbal spells across the board so hard the stick snapped. Why, he asked, would any competent witch or wizard cast without speaking? Hermione's hand was up before the dust settled, something about denying your opponent warning and speed under pressure. Which Snape called acceptable, if incomplete, then added that silence also conceals the spell choice, making counters harder and forcing your opponent to read wand movement and intent rather than words. He said the year would focus on defense used properly, not classroom theatrics, but reaction, timing, and control. No warm-up. We went straight to it, pair work, trading jinxes, and blocks performed silently. I partnered with Harry. The bench creaked as everyone shifted for space. A few Slytherins were already smirking like they'd trained for this all summer. Snape stalked the aisles correcting grips and angles, tapping wrists into line. Non-verbal means non-verbal, he kept saying, never raising his voice, which somehow made it worse. It's maddening how different the magic feels without the word. With impedimenta spoken, I can feel the shove leave the wand. Silent, it's like pressing on a door that won't catch the latch. First exchange, nothing. Second, I muttered by reflex and got a cool reminder from Snape about first years who can at least follow instructions. Harry wasn't faring better. Every time he started to say Expelliarmus, Snape was on him with try again, Potter, like a clock tolling. Across from us, Hermione pulled up a clean, tight Protego without a syllable. Snape didn't award points obviously, but he did the tiniest nod that said, yes, that. Snape demonstrated what we were aiming for, barely a whisper of movement, then a silent shield that caught a test jinx with a soft thud, no flair, no theatrics. He talked about economy of motion, how a smaller arc reduces tells, and how you have to preload intent, decide the spell before your wand moves. Words, he said, are crutches. Useful in training. Fatal in a duel. By the last 10 minutes I could feel the trick of it, pressure behind the eyes, a kind of tightness in the chest right before the wand hand moves. I managed 1/2 strength impedimenta that made Harry stumble, and 2 decent silent blocks that weren't just luck. Not consistent yet. Harry almost got a non-verbal disarming, you could see it in the way his wand arm set, but it slipped at the last second and came out as a breath of the word. Snape's mouth curled, he told us we'd get there if we learned to think faster than we speak. Homework, assigned reading on non-verbal technique and limitations, plus practice, 10 minutes a night of silent Protego and 1 written foot-on when speaking is still preferable, complex spells, power trade-offs, clarity under fatigue. Takeaway, brutal, but useful. No flobberworms. No busy work theory. This is the first time defense has felt like it matches the world outside the castle walls. Told Harry we're practicing after dinner, Hermione's already drawn up a rotation, blocks first, then quick jinxes, then trying to keep the shield up while moving. I'm wrecked, but I can see the path. The 7th of September, 1996. Tryouts today. I don't think my stomach stopped flipping since breakfast. Honestly, I nearly chucked up my porridge. Harry kept saying I'd be fine, but easy for him, he's the best seeker Hogwarts has ever had. I'm just me. The pitch looked massive when we walked out there, like the stands were leaning down, waiting to watch me fail. Loads of people turned up, half of Gryffindor it seemed, and not all of them even wanted to play. Some were just there to stare at Harry. Others, like McLaggen, strutted around like they'd already won a spot. McLaggen! I swear, he was born arrogant. He went on and on about his uncle Tiberius, his Quidditch connections, his natural talent. He didn't even bother pretending he was nervous. The way he looked at me, you'd think I was a joke for even showing up. When it came to my turn, my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my broom. I could hear people whispering in the stands, and I just knew they were waiting for me to muck it up. The first couple of saves were shaky, but I managed them. Then more shots came, harder ones, and somehow, I kept them out. Every block felt like I could breathe again, if only for a second. McLaggen went after me. He was good, annoyingly good. He stopped almost everything, barking orders at the chasers like he was already captain. I felt sick, convinced I'd blown it. But then, on one of the last shots, he went completely the wrong way, missed it by a mile. Looked ridiculous. I thought maybe he'd cracked under pressure, but he didn't look confused. He looked furious. Harry called it, I'd made the team. I thought my heart would burst. Everyone clapped, but not loud, just polite. McLaggen stormed off muttering about distractions and bad luck. Hermione, though, was all smiles, practically glowing. I thought it was just because I'd done well. Later, she admitted she'd confounded McLaggen during one of his saves. Said she didn't trust him to play fair. At first, I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt sick, like I hadn't really earned it. But another part of me, the bigger part, just felt relieved. I wanted to make the team so badly, and now I have. Still, it nags at me. Am I really good enough, or am I just the bloke who needed a bit of help? Harry doesn't know, and I'm not going to tell him. I can't. So here I am, keeper for Gryffindor, 2nd year running. Feels brilliant to write that down. Maybe this year, I'll prove to everyone, and myself, that I deserve it. The 10th of September, 1996. Tryouts today. I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my life. Woke up with my stomach twisting like I'd swallowed one of Fred and George's trick fireworks. Couldn't eat breakfast, not even a rasher of bacon, and you know something's wrong if I pass up food. The pitch was packed with hopefuls. More people showed up than I'd ever seen, some who clearly just wanted to get close to Harry. One bloke even brought his mum to cheer him on. Hermione was there too, sitting in the stands with that look she gets when she's pretending not to be worried. She said she was only there to support me, but she also kept glancing at McLaggen like she'd hex him if he so much as looked smug. And Merlin, was McLaggen smug? He strutted onto the pitch like he was already wearing keeper robes. Talked loudly about being trialed for the national team one day, making sure everyone could hear him. Said things like obviously Gryffindor needs someone. D dropped the quaffle before it even came near me. First one came flying, I caught it by the tips of my fingers. Not graceful, but it stuck. McLaggen saved his too, of course, then made a big show of tossing it back like he'd barely tried. It went on like that for a while, me scraping through, him showing off. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the cheers. Hermione shouted something encouraging, though I couldn't tell what. Looked like she was practically holding her breath. Then came the shootout round. I thought I was done for, because McLaggen was catching everything like it was nothing. But then Hermione, well, she sort of flicked her wand when no one was looking. Next thing you know, McLaggen missed one he should have caught easily. Went red as a howler. Harry didn't say anything, just made his decision after the last round. And somehow I made the team. Gryffindor keeper. Me. I nearly dropped my broom when Harry announced it. The other hopefuls clapped politely, except McLaggen, who stormed off muttering about conspiracies. I wanted to shout after him that he wasn't wrong, but, well, keeper's keeper, isn't it? Hermione came down afterwards, all smiles and well done, Ron. She looked a bit guilty, though. I don't know why. I mean, I actually caught most of those shots on my own. Didn't I? Anyway, I'm keeper now. Proper place on the team. Maybe this year won't be a total disaster after all. The 12th of September, 1996. First potions lesson today, and it was mad. I thought we'd be rid of the subject for good after OWLS, but Slughorn decided to take us in for any WT level since Harry and I both scraped ETH. Shows how low the bar is, really. Can't imagine Snape letting me through. Anyway, we shuffled into the dungeon, not nearly as gloomy as when Snape ran it. Slughorn's got all these shelves of glittering bottles and jars, like a sweet shop if you didn't know they were filled with things like rat spleens and lacewing flies. He was all smiles, acting like we were his best mates instead of just students. Kept calling everyone by name, too, even though I don't remember ever telling him mine. Bet he memorizes them from the Prophet. He had us brewed draft of Living Death, which sounded impossible from the start. Hermione practically rubbed her hands together, already whispering about advanced potion making and how she'd studied it over the summer. I braced myself for humiliation. But then Harry happened. He didn't even have his own book. Slughorn gave him an old one from the cupboard. Thing was scribbled all over, notes in the margins, recipes crossed out and rewritten. Looked like a right mess. Hermione sniffed at it, said it was vandalized, and went back to her perfect instructions. And then Harry just nailed it. Every step, every stir, every cut, better than anyone else in the class. Even I noticed it. He was slicing things in some weird way the book told him, stirring counterclockwise when the instruction said clockwise, and it worked. His potion turned the exact shade it was supposed to, pale as mist, while mine looked like pond water and Hermione's had curdled. Slughorn was beside himself. Told Harry it was the best draft he'd ever seen from a 6th year. Awarded him a bottle of Felix Felicis, liquid luck. Everyone gasped like he'd just handed over a dragon egg. Hermione's face went redder than a Gryffindor banner. She kept insisting Harry must have copied wrong, that it was dangerous to follow scribbles. Harry just grinned and shrugged, like he hadn't done anything at all. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I was chuffed for Harry, he's never been top of the class in potions, and it's about time he got one over Snape. On the other hand, I could practically feel Hermione's fury radiating across the table. She wouldn't even look at him afterwards. So that's how it is now. Harry's suddenly a potions prodigy thanks to some old book, Hermione's fuming because she can't stand being second best, and me, I'm stuck in the middle, trying not to set my cauldron on fire. Brilliant. The 18th of September, 1996. Slug Club tonight. Well, not for me, obviously. For Harry, Ginny, and Hermione. Not Ron Weasley. It happened after potions. Slughorn was packing up, humming to himself like he'd just won the lottery, and he called Harry over, all smiles. Said something about a little gathering in his office that evening. Ginny too, which shocked me. He said he'd been hearing excellent things about her bat bogey Hex. She went pink but said yes, of course. Then he turned to Hermione, and that was obvious. He's obsessed with brains and she's got the biggest one in the school. And then, nothing. Didn't even glance my way. Not a "come along," not a "perhaps next time." Just me, standing there holding my cauldron like an idiot. I told them I didn't care. Said the whole thing sounded dull, him showing off famous people he knows, bragging about crystallized pineapple, or whatever. Harry tried to say I wasn't missing much. Hermione said Slughorn just appreciates talent. Which I suppose is another way of saying I don't have any. Still, it stung. Ginny went, for Merlin's sake. My little sister, who's a year below me, gets picked while I'm left out. What does that say about me? They all came back later, smelling of pudding and spiced wine, Harry with sugar on his sleeve, Hermione looking smug about some long conversation she'd had with Slughorn about ancient runes. Ginny rolled her eyes and said it was just a lot of old boring talk, but she looked pleased too. I sat there pretending not to listen, feeling like the fourth wheel again. It's always the same. Harry's the famous one, Hermione's the clever one, Ginny's turning out brilliant at hexes, and Fred and George are rich and successful already. And me? I'm just there. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it does. I thought maybe Quidditch would be the thing that made me stand out. But keeper or not, Slughorn couldn't care less. Sometimes I think if I disappeared tomorrow, the only one who'd notice would be Mum, and even she'd compare me to Percy. The 2nd of October, 1996. First proper Quidditch practice tonight. I thought being named keeper would make me feel proud, like I finally had a place where I mattered. Instead, it just made me sick with nerves. Whole day I felt like I had a swarm of billywigs in my stomach. Couldn't focus in charms, nearly vanished my quill instead of my feather. Hermione told me to relax, as if it's that easy. Harry's running training like a proper captain now. Whistle, clipboard, the works. He says I've got the skills, I just need confidence. Easy for him to say. He flies like he was born on a broom. I get one wobble and suddenly the whole team's staring, wondering why Harry didn't pick McLaggen instead. And of course, McLaggen was there tonight, sitting on the sidelines with his arms folded, like he's waiting for me to muck up so Harry'll swap us out. He kept shouting advice, too, things like, "Get your hands up, Weasley," or "Keep your eyes on the quaffle." Like I don't know that already. I wanted to hex his mouth shut. Still, I wasn't terrible. Blocked more than I let through. Slipped on one dive and nearly toppled off my broom, but managed to recover before I hit the grass. Katie and Demelzar both said I did fine. Ginny told me to stop looking like someone had cursed me every time the quaffle came my way. Easy for her, she actually enjoys this. After practice, I caught McLaggen smirking at me as we walked back up to the castle. Hermione must have seen the look on my face, because she said, "You were great, Ron," a bit too quickly, like she was trying to convince me. I wanted to believe her. But truth is, I keep thinking I'll let everyone down. If I fail, it's not just me, it's Gryffindor House, it's Harry as captain, it's Hermione telling me I had it in me all along. Sometimes I wish I could borrow Harry's Felix Felicis and just play one match without the nerves. For now, all I can do is keep practicing and pray McLaggen doesn't get his chance to show me up. The 12th of October, 1996, Hogsmeade weekend. Katie Bell Hogsmeade looked ordinary, wet cobbles, the butterbeer steam on the 3 broomsticks windows, Zonko's still shut. We split our usual way, Honeydukes first, then a loop past Scrivenshafts. Madame Rosmerta served us and kept losing the thread mid-sentence, glassy, distracted. I thought it was a long lunch rush, Harry clocked it as wrong. On the high street, Katie Bell and her friend Leanne were arguing over a small, paper-wrapped parcel. Voices up, hand snatching, the paper tore, and Katie's fingertips brushed what was inside. She went rigid, shot into the air as if yanked by a hook, and screamed like the sound had to get out of her or break her. The parcel hit the ground. I saw a glint of opals before Harry yelled not to touch it. We formed a sort of shield without talking, Hermione whipping up a barrier charm around the fallen package, Harry trying to steady Katie from below, me scanning for a teacher. Hagrid came thundering up the path at the shout and carried Katie in both arms like she weighed nothing. We half ran with him back to the castle, the screaming dropping to little gasps that were worse in some ways. McGonagall met us at the doors. Snape took one look at the parcel and flicked his wand, boxing the thing without letting it breathe the same air as us. He called it a powerful curse object and told Filch to keep his hands off unless he fancied losing them. We gave our accounts: Rosmerta's Ardenus, the row, the torn paper, the necklace. Snape said the curse wasn't aimless, it wanted a target, and if it had reached the intended one, the result would be fatal. There was a note pinned inside, they said later, for Dumbledore. The Aurors are looking into it. Right. After, the three of us argued the whole way back from the hospital wing. Harry's certain it's Malfoy, he's been in Borgin and Burke's, and that opal necklace has a history of ruining anyone foolish enough to touch it. Hermione is holding out for proof and says Rosmerta could have been confused, or someone passed the parcel through her. I can't shake how vacant Rosmerta's eyes looked, like she was there and not there at once. If someone imperioused her, this isn't just random bad luck. It's inside the village, and it's aimed at the headmaster. Homework didn't matter tonight. We sat in the common room going over it again and again, trying not to picture Katie hanging there. I kept my wand out without meaning to. First Hogsmeade of the year, and already it feels like the thin bit of the ice has cracked. The 31st of October, 1996. Halloween at Hogwarts. Usually that means a feast, food piled higher than you can see, and something exploding during dessert. The feast part happened: pumpkin pasties, mountains of chicken legs, the usual. But the exploding bit didn't, unless you count my head when I realized where Harry had disappeared to. He had his first private lesson with Dumbledore tonight. Just him. No one else. Not Hermione, not me. Just Harry and the greatest wizard alive, off having chats about Merlin knows what, while I'm stuck at the table trying not to look jealous. I told myself it was fine, that I didn't care. But I did. I do. It's always Harry, isn't it? He's the chosen one, the one with the prophecy, the one Dumbledore trusts with all the big stuff. And what am I? The mate tagging along, making jokes, getting saved more than I save. Sometimes I feel like Dumbledore doesn't even know my name, even though I've been here 6 years. Hermione was nearly beside herself when she heard about it. Private tuition with Dumbledore. Do you realize how rare that is? She said, eyes wide like she'd swallowed a whole cauldron of fire whiskey. She wanted to know every detail, what book they'd read, what spells he'd learned. Harry just looked uncomfortable, said it wasn't like that. And it wasn't. Later, when Harry told us, I found out what it really was: memories. They'd gone through a Pensieve together, looking at some bloke called Bob Ogden visiting Voldemort's mother's family. The Gaunts. Filthy, cruel lot by the sound of them. Living in a shack, bullying each other, bragging about being descended from Slytherin. Dumbledore wanted Harry to see where Voldemort came from, how he grew up. Said it mattered. I don't know. I mean, it's horrible, what Harry described: his mum cursed, his uncle attacking people, all of them obsessed with blood purity. But how's that supposed to help Harry fight him? I asked, and Harry just shrugged, said Dumbledore reckons the past holds answers. I suppose Dumbledore knows best, but still, it all sounded dark. Part of me wished I'd been there, even if it was creepy. Just to see what Harry sees, to know what he knows. But another part of me was glad I wasn't. Voldemort's past? Who wants that in their head? I've already got enough nightmares from the Department of Mysteries. Still, it bothers me. Harry gets chosen for everything. Chosen for Dumbledore's lessons, chosen for Felix Felicis prizes, chosen by fate itself. Hermione's the cleverest witch in the year, and teachers can't stop praising her. And me, well, I've got Quidditch. Except even there, I keep feeling like I'm one bad save away from being replaced by McLaggen. Speaking of Quidditch, practice earlier was rough. My nerves were back with a vengeance. Every time the quaffle came near, my mind screamed, "Don't miss, everyone's watching." I caught most of them, but Katie slipped one past me, and McLaggen, who was helping Harry with strategy, made some loud comment about how Gryffindor deserves the best. I nearly fell off my broom from rage. Harry shut him up quick, but it stuck with me. Back in the common room tonight, Hermione was trying to quiz Harry about every second of his lesson. He looked tired, didn't want to talk. Ginny sat nearby, pretending not to listen, but I caught her watching Harry. She's not subtle, my sister. Me? I sat there, pretending to read my defense homework, but really just stewing. Wishing, for once, I could be the one someone trusted with something big. The one who mattered. Instead, I'm here, writing in this diary like some lovesick girl. If Fred or George found out, I'd never hear the end of it. But it's the only place I can say what I actually think without everyone rolling their eyes. Anyway, Dumbledore's offloading Voldemort's life story on Harry, and Harry's carrying it like a sack of bricks. I'm trying to carry Quidditch without making a fool of myself. Hermione's carrying about a dozen books everywhere she goes. Ginny's carrying a torch for Harry she thinks nobody notices. And all of us are carrying this awful feeling that something bad's coming, worse than last year. Happy Halloween, I suppose. The 14th of November, 1996. Match day. I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my life, not even during OWLS. Couldn't eat breakfast again, not even a piece of toast, and that's saying something. My stomach felt like I'd swallowed a bludger. Harry tried to pep me up before we left the common room. Said I'd been brilliant in practice, that he trusted me. Easy for him to say, he's the best seeker Hogwarts has ever had. For me, every mistake is huge, obvious, impossible to hide. One bad save and the whole house knows it's my fault. The walk to the pitch felt endless. Whole school staring, banners waving, Slytherins jeering before we'd even taken our positions. McLaggen was in the stands, of course, smirking like he was just waiting for me to fail so he could swoop in and take my spot. I swear he practiced that smirk in the mirror. The whistle blew, and my heart nearly leapt out of my chest. The quaffle came flying toward me within seconds. I froze for a heartbeat, just a heartbeat, but then my hands moved and I caught it. The roar from the Gryffindors nearly knocked me off my broom. And it kept happening. Shot after shot, Slytherins coming at me hard, and somehow I kept stopping them. I don't even know how. It was like my body moved on its own, like all the nerves just melted away once I was in the air. I dove, I stretched, I blocked, and each time I did, the cheers got louder. At some point, the Gryffindor crowd started singing "Weasley is our king." At first I thought they were mocking me again, like last year. My stomach lurched, until I realized the words were different. They were cheering me. Singing that I never let the quaffle in. My ears burned, my throat went dry, but Merlin, I've never felt anything like it. For once, the song was on my side. Hermione was up in the stands, clapping like mad, grinning ear to ear. Even Professor McGonagall looked pleased, she almost smiled, I swear. Harry caught the snitch, of course, sealing the win. But for once, it didn't feel like I was just the other Weasley on the pitch. I mattered. I'd helped us win. People were chanting my name, not Fred's or George's or even Harry's. Mine. After the match, the common room went wild. Butterbeer everywhere, music blaring, everyone clapping me on the back. For a moment, I felt like I belonged, properly belonged, not just as Harry's mate, not just as Hermione's sidekick, but as Ron Weasley, Gryffindor keeper. Of course, McLaggen was sulking in the corner, and that made it even better. Hermione gave me a look too, proud and soft, like she knew what this meant to me. I pretended not to notice, but it warmed me more than all the butterbeer in the room. Tonight, I don't feel like the spare. Tonight, I feel like a king. The 30th of November, 1996. Another Slug Club dinner tonight. Which means another night of me sitting in the common room pretending not to care while Harry and Hermione trot off to eat fancy puddings with Slughorn and his favourites. Ginny went too, of course. Always Ginny. Everyone's favourite. I said it was fine, I didn't want to go anyway. Who wants to sit around listening to some old walrus bloke brag about his collection of famous friends? But when they left, laughing and joking together, I felt like the floor had dropped out beneath me. So I sat with Dean and Seamus for a bit, played a round of Exploding Snap with Neville, tried to look busy. But I kept staring at the portrait hole, waiting for them to come back. Pathetic. When they finally did, Hermione was talking so fast you'd think she'd swallowed one of Fred and George's pepper imps. Oh, Ron, it was fascinating, Slughorn had a vampire there. Sanguini. His friends with a vampire. She went on and on about it, describing every little detail, the food, the drinks, the famous witches and wizards Slughorn kept name-dropping. She was glowing, like she'd just been knighted. Harry didn't say much. He looked uncomfortable, kept scratching the back of his neck and muttering things like, it was all right and a bit boring, really. Ginny rolled her eyes and said it was stuffy and ridiculous, but even she looked pleased to have been included. And me? I just sat there. Smiled, nodded, acted like I was glad they'd had a nice time. Inside, though, it was like someone had lit a fire in my chest. Why am I never good enough for things like that? Why Ginny and not me? Why Hermione and not me? Why Harry? Well, I know why Harry, but still. It's like I'm invisible sometimes, even to people who are supposed to know me best. Hermione must have noticed, because she kept asking if I was all right. I said fine every time. Not like I'm going to tell her the truth, that I'm sick of being left behind, sick of being the ordinary one. Later, when Harry went up to bed, I heard Hermione whisper to Ginny about how much opportunity the Slug Club could mean for them, all the connections. It made me want to throw you. Of me. But tonight, I'm still Ron Weasley, the boy who wasn't invited. Again. The 12th of December, 1996. Harry's gone full-on obsessed with Malfoy. He won't stop talking about it, at breakfast, in the common room, even during Quidditch practice. Says Malfoy's a Death Eater, that he's sneaking off somewhere, up to something. Hermione keeps arguing with him every single time, saying he's imagining things, that the idea's preposterous. She says no way would Voldemort trust a 16-year-old with something that important. Honestly, I can see both sides. Malfoy does look dodgy these days, he's paler than nearly headless Nick, jumps when anyone mentions Death Eaters, and keeps vanishing off after lessons. But Hermione's got a point too. Malfoy's a GIT, but a Death Eater? Feels a bit far-fetched. I told Harry that maybe Malfoy's just skipping off to snog Parkinson, which earned me a glare from him and an eye roll from Hermione. Truth is, I don't know what to think. I don't fancy believing Harry's imagining things, not after everything he's been right about before. but I don't fancy thinking we're sitting in lessons with a Death Eater either. The argument got properly heated tonight. Harry slammed his book shut so hard ink splattered everywhere, and Hermione nearly shouted at him to stop being ridiculous. Ginny piped up from the corner and sided with Harry, which shocked Hermione into silence for once. Ginny reckons Malfoy's definitely up to something, said she's seen him sneaking into empty classrooms. Harry practically glowed at that, like finally someone believed him. I stayed quiet. It's easier. Whenever they start rowing, I just end up taking fire from both sides. Hermione says I don't think things through. Harry says I don't take things seriously. Sometimes it feels safer just to nod and hope they forget I'm there. Meanwhile, Quidditch is keeping me distracted. Practice in the freezing cold is miserable, but at least it keeps my mind off Death Eaters in training. McLaggen still hovers at the edge of the pitch, acting like the team's his to run. I swear, if he makes one more comment about proper keeper technique, I'll hex him bald. Anyway, I don't know if Harry's right about Malfoy. But the way things feel this year, the way the air in the castle seems heavier somehow, I wouldn't be surprised if he was. The 20th of December, 1996. Back home at the Burrow for the holidays, and it's chaos, same as always. The second I walked through the door, Mum shoved a plate of mince pies at me. Fred and George let off a firework that spelled Ronikin's the keeper over the kitchen table, and Ginny laughed so hard she nearly choked on a treacle tart. Dad just shook his head, muttering about responsible use of charm work, while secretly looking impressed. The Burrow's crammed full now, what with everyone back. Feels like every chair's got someone squeezed into it and every corner's got a gal or a garden gnome lurking. It's noisy and messy and completely ours, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Except Fleur's here. Which means everything's about 10 times more irritating. She's hanging off Bill like ivy on a wall, always cooing and calling him Beale. Drives me mad. She swans around the house acting like it's all beneath her, wrinkling her nose at the gal's bangs, frowning at the smell of the chicken coop, saying the table's too small for so many people. Mum's been trying her hardest to put on a smile, but I can see it twitching. She hates Fleur's fussing. Doesn't think she's right for Bill. She hasn't said it straight out, but you can feel it in the air when they're in the same room. Ginny, of course, has no filter. Calls Fleur a phlegm to her face whenever she can get away with it. The first time, at dinner, I nearly spat out my pumpkin juice. Fleur looked horrified. Bill gave Ginny a proper telling off, but Ginny just smirked and kept eating. That's Ginny for you, or fearless. Harry's here too, and that helps. Makes the house feel brighter somehow. He's quieter than usual, though. Think he's still chewing on that last Dumbledore lesson. Sometimes I catch him staring out the window like he's seeing something the rest of us can't. Ginny teases him out of it sometimes, though she has a way of doing that. Fred and George have turned the sitting room into their testing ground, of course. Tung-tung toffees left on the coffee table, canary creams tucked into the biscuit tin. Mum nearly hexed them into next week when she bit into one of their trick tea cakes. They said it was market research. Hermione's coming after Christmas, which means I'll have even less peace. Harry pretends not to notice, but I know he does. He's far too good at spotting things people don't want spotted. Ginny won't stop making comments either. She elbowed me earlier and whispered, "Bet you're excited for Hermione to get here," with this wicked grin. I told her to shut it, but my ears went bright red and that was that. It's strange, I thought coming home would take me out of all the Hogwarts tension, away from the Malfoy business and Slughorn's parties and Quidditch pressure. But it's just a different kind of madness here. Family madness. The sort where you love everyone to bits but also want to hex half of them by supper. Still, better here than anywhere else. Hogwarts feels dark this year, like the shadows are thicker than usual. The burrow, for all its creaks and leaks, feels like the last truly safe place left. At least, I hope it does. The 31st of December, 1996. Never thought I'd write this. The burrow isn't safe anymore. Not really. Tonight proved it. We'd all been outside, celebrating New Year's Eve with a little fire going in the garden. The sky was clear, stars everywhere, our breath steaming in the cold. Ginny and Harry were tossing filibuster firecrackers into the flames to make them pop different colors. Fred and George were showing off some ridiculous new rocket thing that whizzed around the chickens before exploding into Happy New Year in gold sparks. Mum was fussing about coats and scarves. Dad just smiled and let us enjoy ourselves. It felt almost normal, almost like before you-know-who came back. Then Bellatrix's laugh cut through everything. I'll never forget that sound, high, sharp, like glass breaking. I swear it froze the air. She stepped out of the shadows at the edge of the garden, wand raised, hair wild. And then the fire roared up, flames shooting into the night, licking the walls of the house. Death Eaters poured in after her. Greyback was there, a huge, scarred, teeth bared, and others I didn't recognize. Mum screamed for us to get back. Dad and Bill had their wands out in an instant, Fred and George too. Harry went charging forward, of course, like he always does. Ginny was right behind him, stubborn as ever. I tried to cover them, casting jinxes as fast as I could. Stunners, shield charms, anything. But it was chaos. Sparks flying everywhere, curses streaking past. The house, our house, catching fire. Smoke stinging my eyes. Bellatrix taunted Harry the whole time, calling him the chosen one, daring him to fight. She was laughing even while dueling Dad, like it was all a game. Greyback lunged for Ginny, and my heart nearly stopped. Harry shoved her out of the way, hexed him back, but for a second I thought, Merlin, I thought he had her. It felt endless, but suddenly it was over. Aura showed up, Tonks, Kingsley, and the Death Eaters disapparated into the night, cackling. The fire fizzled down, leaving half the garden scorched and the kitchen wall blackened. The burrow still stands, but it doesn't feel the same. Afterwards, Mum was shaking so badly she couldn't even scold Harry and Ginny for running into the fight. Dad just held her, face grim, eyes tight. Fred and George went quiet for once, which might have been the scariest part of all. Ginny tried to act like she was fine, but I saw her hands trembling when she went upstairs. Harry looked sick. He kept saying it was his fault, that Bellatrix was after him, that we were all in danger because of him. I told him to shut it. None of this is his fault. But in my gut, I wondered if he was right. The burrow's supposed to be safe. It's home. But tonight, it burned. And I don't think any of us will ever forget it. The 6th of January, 1997. If there's one thing worse than not being invited to Slughorn's parties, it's hearing what happens at them afterwards. Tonight, though, I didn't have to just hear about it, I had to watch the fallout. Hermione went with McLaggen. Cormac Bloody McLaggen. Of all people. She could have gone alone, with Harry, even dragged Neville along. But no, she chose him. And don't tell me it wasn't on purpose. She knew what she was doing. Wanted to get at me. And it worked. I swear, McLaggen strutted around that party like a peacock, showing off his teeth, talking loudly about Quidditch and his Uncle Tiberius and whatever else he thought made him look impressive. From what Ginny told me, Hermione ditched him halfway through, hid behind a tapestry just to escape him. Serves her right, honestly. What was she thinking? When she came back to the common room, she acted like nothing happened, sitting with her books, all prim and calm. But every time I looked at her, my blood boiled. And then Lavender was there. Sweet, giggly Lavender, all smiles and hair twirling. She laughed at my jokes, clung to my arm, and for once, someone seemed to think I was worth paying attention to. So I kissed her. Right there, in the common room. And suddenly I wasn't just Ron anymore. I was Ron with a girlfriend. People stared, whispered, but Lavender didn't care. She just beamed at me, called me a 1-1 in this squeaky voice, and it stuck. Hermione froze, then stormed out, face pale and eyes blazing. I pretended not to notice, pretended I didn't care. But I did. Now Lavender won't leave me alone. She follows me to meals, waits outside class, holds my hand everywhere we go. Part of me likes it, finally someone choosing me, not Harry, not anyone else. But another part feels smothered. She doesn't see me, not really. She sees some idea of me, some 1-1 she can show off to her friends. Harry looked torn between laughing and hexing me. He just muttered, "Nice one, mate," but the look on his face said otherwise. Ginny's been relentless, making gagging noises whenever Lavender hangs off me. Fred and George would have a field day if they were here. As for Hermione, she won't look at me. Not in lessons, not in the common room, nowhere. It's like I don't exist to her anymore, unless she's glaring. I thought it would feel like payback, but it doesn't. It just feels hollow. So now I've got a girlfriend, and somehow I've made everything worse. The 20th of January, 1997. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. At first, having Lavender as a girlfriend seemed, well, brilliant. Everyone noticed me. People whispered when we walked past, some of them even looked impressed. For once, I wasn't just Harry's sidekick or Hermione's tag-along. I was Ron Weasley, with a girlfriend. It felt good. But now? It's exhausting. Lavender's everywhere. If I sit down, she's already sliding into the seat beside me. If I stand up, she's clinging to my arm. She insists on waiting outside every class, and she says as 1-1 so loudly I can feel my ears turning red from across the corridor. Half the castle probably thinks I've gone soft in the head. It's not just the name. It's the way she stares at me, like I'm supposed to be some romantic hero. I don't know how to be that. I don't even know if I want to be that. Sometimes I just want to sit and play chess, or talk about Quidditch, or even just breathe without someone draped over me. But Lavender doesn't give me space for any of it. And Hermione. Merlin, Hermione. She barely talks to me now. When she does, it's cold, sharp, like every word is a weapon. She sits far away in the common room, books piled around her like a wall. Sometimes I catch her looking at me, and not angry, not even jealous, just hurt. And I hate it. Hate that I did that to her. But every time I think about saying something, Lavender turns up and it's too late. Harry's caught in the middle, as always. He doesn't say much, but I know what he's thinking. I see it in the way he avoids sitting too close when Lavender's around, or the way he glances at Hermione like he wishes he could fix it all. Ginny, on the other hand, has no problem saying exactly what she thinks. "You look like a prize Kneazle on a lead," she told me yesterday, smirking while Lavender nattered on about how handsome I looked in my Quidditch robes. The worst part? I don't even feel like myself anymore. I thought having a girlfriend would make me happier, more confident, but instead I feel trapped. Like I'm playing a part in some play I didn't audition for. Still, I can't break it off. Not yet. Lavender's so happy, so sure this is perfect. If I told her the truth, that I don't feel the same way, I think she'd cry for a week. And the thought of being the bloke who made Lavender Brown cry in the middle of the common room makes my stomach twist. So I keep pretending. Keep being 1-1. Keep letting Hermione hate me. And hope it doesn't all come crashing down. The 1st of March, 1997. Happy birthday to me. 18 years alive, and I nearly spent it in Slughorn's office drooling over Romilda Vane. Brilliant. It started when Harry found a box of chocolates in his trunk. At first, we thought they were a late Valentine's gift. Turned out they were from Romilda, meant for him, not me. He shoved them aside without thinking, doesn't trust her, can't blame him. But today, I spotted them and, well, chocolate's chocolate, isn't it? Bad idea. The second I bit into one, it was like something snapped in my brain. Suddenly, Romilda wasn't just some girl in our year, she was everything. The most beautiful witch alive. The only person I could think about. I raved to Harry about how we had to find her, right then, because she was waiting for me, because she loved me. Harry tried to stop me, but I was out the door before I knew what was happening. He dragged me all the way to Slughorn's office, saying I needed an antidote. Slughorn thought it was hilarious, of course. Said it reminded him of youthful passions and poured me a glass of mead to celebrate my birthday properly. That's when things went from stupid to deadly. The mead was poisoned. I didn't know it at the time, I only remember taking a sip, feeling my throat burn, and then the world tipped sideways. Everything went black. When I woke up in the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey told me Harry saved my life. Again. He shoved a bezer down my throat, just like Snape lectured us about in first year. I don't remember it, thank Merlin, but apparently I was thrashing, foaming at the mouth. Slughorn was white as a sheet, mumbling about how he had no idea where the mead came from. So that's my birthday, bewitched by chocolates, nearly killed by poisoned mead, only alive because Harry knew his potion's homework. Not exactly the celebration I imagined. Mum and Dad came to visit, pale and panicked. Ginny shouted at me for being an idiot. Hermione looked like she didn't know whether to cry or hex me. Lavender, well, she clung to me like she'd lost me already. Everyone made a fuss, but all I could think was how close I'd come. One bite, one sip, and that's it. If this is what turning 18 feels like, I don't want to know what 19 will bring. The 14th of February, 1997. Valentine's Day. I was dreading it already. Lavender had been planning something special all week, whispering about surprises and drawing little hearts on my notes in class. I didn't know how to tell her I wasn't in the mood for romance. Turns out, I didn't have to. The day gave me a different kind of surprise, nearly killed me. It started ordinary enough. Harry got his birthday present from Slughorn, a bottle of oak-matured mead, fancy stuff, looked expensive. He was saving it for when Slughorn came round. We didn't think much of it. Later that evening, we were up in the dormitory, just me and Harry. He opened the mead, poured us each a glass, and I remember lifting it to my mouth. The smell was sharp, sweet, heavy. I took a sip. And then everything went black. I don't remember much after that. Harry told me later I collapsed, twitching and foaming at the mouth. Said my lips went blue, my eyes rolled back. All I know is that 1 second I was sitting on my bed, and the next I was on the edge of death. Harry saved me. He shoved a bezer down my throat, just like the one Snape always droned on about in lessons, only I never thought it'd matter. And it worked. I woke up hours later in the hospital wing, throat raw, body aching, but alive. When I opened my eyes, Lavender was there, clinging to my hand, sobbing like I'd been dead for a week. 1-1, she wailed, loud enough to make Madame Pomfrey jump. She kissed my face, my neck, even my ears, and all I could think was, please, not here, not now. Hermione wasn't in the room, but I could imagine what she'd think if she saw this circus. Mum and Dad came rushing in not long after, pale and panicked. Mum fussed over me, Dad squeezed my shoulder, both of them whispering about how close it had been. I'd never seen them look so frightened. It hit me then, how close I'd come. How easy it is, just one sip, and that's it. And then there's the question of why. Who sent the mead? Was it meant for me, or Harry, or even Dumbledore? Slughorn had been keeping it, said he'd been saving it for months. It makes no sense. But in this war, nothing makes sense. Now I'm lying here, watching the candlelight flicker on the ceiling, Lavender snoring gently in the chair beside my bed, clutching my hand like she's afraid I'll vanish if she lets go. I should feel grateful, I guess, for her care, for Harry's quick thinking, for being alive. And I do. But I also feel trapped, like I've been shoved deeper into something I can't get out of. It's terrifying, how close death is. One moment you're raising a glass, the next you're nearly gone. I don't know what scares me more, that it happened, or that it'll happen again. The 7th of March, 1997. Still in the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey keeps saying I need rest and recuperation after the poisoning, but it feels less like healing and more like being locked in Azkaban. She won't even let me sneak down to the Great Hall. No visitors after hours, no proper food, no freedom. Just broth, pumpkin juice, and the occasional dry biscuit as if I'm a toddler. I keep telling her I'm fine, that I feel strong enough to walk, strong enough to play, but she just gives me that look, the one that says she knows best and that I'll do as I'm told. Honestly, I think she enjoys having a reason to keep me under her thumb. And today of all days. The Gryffindor vs Hufflepuff match. My match. The one I'd been thinking about for weeks, planning in my head, going over every possible save. It was supposed to be my comeback after Christmas, proof that I belonged in goal. The match we needed to win to stay in the running for the cup. Instead, I was stuck in this bloody bed, watching sunlight creep across the ceiling while McLaggen, McLaggen, got to wear my keeper's robes. I knew it would be bad the moment Harry told me he was subbing him in. McLaggen's been desperate for this since September, always strutting about like his Merlin's gift to Quidditch. Loud, bossy, full of himself. He doesn't even care about the team, only about showing off how much better he thinks he is than everyone else. I told Harry it was a mistake, begged him to find someone else, but what choice did he have? No one else was trained you. Came in first, storming through the doors still in her Quidditch robes, hair sticking to her sweaty face, eyes blazing. She looked like she wanted to hex someone into next week. Then Harry limped in not long after, blood dripping from his forehead, half carried by Demelza, who was crying her eyes out. Madame Pomfrey nearly had a fit when she saw him, but I barely noticed, I was already dreading what they were about to say. Turns out McLaggen was even worse than I'd imagined. He spent the whole match barking orders at everyone like he was the captain instead of Harry. Yelled at chasers, corrected beaters, lectured Ginny mid-flight. He even stole Harry's beater's bat at one point to demonstrate proper technique. And, of course, that's when it happened, he swung it clumsily, completely missed the bludger, and cracked Harry's skull open instead. Hospital wing concussion, just like that. That alone should be enough to keep him off the team for life. And the match? Disaster. Absolute disaster. Hufflepuff flattened us. With me in goal, maybe we'd have stood a chance. But with McLaggen? No hope. Ginny said he let in nearly every shot because he was too busy shouting at her to fly properly. Demelza was in tears by the end, Katie looked like she wanted to murder him, and Ginny's language could have burned the paint off the stands. When Gin is that furious, you stay well clear. Hermione came by afterwards, trying to soothe me with the usual "don't worry about it, Ron, it wasn't your fault." Easy enough for her to say. She wasn't the one replaced by a Pratt who ruined everything. She wasn't the one stuck in bed while her team slid down the standings. Harry, even with his head still bandaged, muttered it was the worst match he'd ever played in, and that McLagan's off the team for good. Small comfort when the damage already done. I lay there listening to them all talk, trying not to let it show how much it hurt. Not the poisoning, not the lingering ache in my ribs, but missing it. Missing the game. Keeper's my thing. The one place where I feel like I matter, like I'm not just the extra Weasley tagging along. And today I wasn't there. Absent. Forgotten. Replaced by someone who made a mockery of it. I hate lying here useless while the world keeps spinning without me. I hate knowing Gryffindor slipped down the table because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And mostly, I hate McLagan, his arrogance, his shouting, his smug face. If I'd been there, none of this would have happened. If I ever get back on that pitch, I swear, I'm not letting a single quaffle pass me again. The 16th of March, 1997. I thought being stuck in the hospital wing was bad enough. Turns out, it's worse when you've got Lavender Brown trying to sneak in every 5 minutes. Madame Pomfrey nearly hexed her yesterday when she burst in with a basket of Honeyduke sweets, shrieking, 1-1, like I'd died and come back. She insists on feeding me chocolate frogs by hand, which is mortifying, especially when other patients are watching. I keep pretending to be asleep when she comes. Doesn't work every time, but sometimes she gets fed up and flounces off in a huff. Then she goes around telling everyone how worried she is, how heartbroken she'd be if anything happened to me. I don't know if she's more in love with me or with the idea of having a tragic romance to brag about. And then there's Hermione. She came by today, quietly, no fuss. Just brought me some homework I'd missed, asked how I was feeling. We didn't talk about lavender, though the air was thick with it. She gave me this small smile, not her usual smug one, just soft. It made my chest hurt worse than the poison ever did. When she left, Lavender stormed in not 10 minutes later, clinging to me like a niffler on gold. She asked what Hermione wanted, her voice all sharp and suspicious. I said homework, which was true, but she didn't believe me. She pouted, called Hermione a cow, and I snapped at her without meaning to. She burst into tears, Madame Pomfrey threw her out, and now apparently I'm the villain of the piece. The truth is, I don't even know why I started with Lavender. I mean, I do, she made me feel wanted, important, like I wasn't just the extra Weasley hanging around. But it's too much now. Too loud, too clingy, too fake. And every time she says 1-1, I feel like disappearing under the blankets. The worst part is Hermione. Because every time she walks past without looking at me, it feels like a hex to the gut. I thought having a girlfriend would make me happy, but all it's done is push her away. And I don't know how to fix it. So here I am, recovering from poison, still in the middle of a mess I made myself. Lavender thinks we're some great romance, Hermione thinks I'm an idiot, and me, well, I know I'm an idiot. The 21st of March, 1997. Sectum Sempra and the Bookward reached the common room in bits, moaning Myrtle screaming a murder, blood all over the 6th floor bathroom, Malfoy carried to the hospital wing, Snape livid. Harry told us the rest after McGonagall let him go. He'd followed Malfoy into Myrtle's, tempers snapped, wands out. Harry used a hex he'd got from the Half-Blood Prince's notes, labelled, helpfully, for enemies. It carved Malfoy open. Not a stunner gone wrong, deep cuts, fast bleeding. Snape arrived and worked a countercurse, Vulnera Sananta, 3 passes, slow and precise, stopped the blood and sealed enough to move him. Malfoy's alive, pale as parchment, but alive. Snape then turned on Harry. Wanted to know where he'd learned it, demanded to see his potions book. Harry wasn't about to hand over the prince. As soon as he could, he legged it to the room of requirement, the junk version. Hid the annotated copy in a cabinet and marked the spot with a dusty old warlock bust, a matted wig, and a tarnished tiara he found on a shelf. Looked like classrooms worth of forgotten rubbish in there. Noted the landmarks in case we ever need that book again. He grabbed a clean copy from the cupboard in the room and brought that to Snape, who didn't buy it for a second but couldn't prove otherwise. Result: detention with Snape every Saturday until the end of term. That'll clash with the Quidditch final. We'll need Ginny to seek again if it comes to it. Hermione is furious, says the prince's book is a ticking curse box and that using spells we don't fully understand is criminally stupid. Hard to argue when the bathroom still smells like Episki and soap. I'm angry at Malfoy. Whatever he's up to, it's pushed all of us to the edge, but I'm also rattled that one line of unknown magic nearly killed him. Harry's shaken, even if he won't say it out loud. Side notes for the record. Myrtle keeps wailing about the handsome boy crying, Malfoy, and how Harry attacked him, which will do wonders for rumors. Snape confiscated the replacement potions book Harry brought and made a point of checking library stamps and margin notes. He's not done sniffing this out. And, because nothing can just be simple, Ginny was out late tonight too. She says she helped Harry sort the book situation in that room. I didn't ask questions I didn't want answered. We can sort family feelings later. For now, no more print spells, full stop, and we drill non-verbal shields until they hold under pressure. The 21st of April, 1997. If the air in the common room gets any thicker, you'd need a severing charm just to breathe. Hermione and Harry are at it again about the prince's book, and of course, I'm stuck in the middle. Always in the middle. It started in potions. Harry used another one of the prince's tricks, something about crushing the Sapphirus bean instead of cutting it. And his draft of peace came out perfect. Mine was passable, not terrible, but Hermione's went pear-shaped. She hates that more than anything, hates that Harry's using this old scribbled-in book to beat her at her best subject. She cornered him after class, saying he was cheating and putting his trust in a stranger he knows nothing about. Harry snapped back that the results speak for themselves, and they were off. By the time we got back to the tower, it was a full-blown row. Hermione waving her hands, voice sharp, Harry looking furious but stubborn. I tried to calm them down, said something like, "Look, the prince hasn't killed him yet, has he?" Wrong thing to say. Hermione rounded on me, eyes flashing, and asked if I cared at all about where Harry was getting his magic. I didn't know what to say. I don't like seeing them fight, but honestly, Harry's doing better in potions than he ever has. It's hard not to side with him, even if I see Hermione's point. Meanwhile, Lavender's been sniffing around, getting jealous every time Hermione so much as speaks to me. Tonight she plonked herself down on my lap in the middle of the argument, wrapping her arms round my neck like a boa constrictor, just to prove some sort of point. Hermione gave me a look, sharp, cold, but there was hurt in it too, and stormed upstairs. Lavender smirked, called her a know-it-all cow, and I felt my stomach twist. I don't even know what I want anymore. Lavender makes me feel wanted, sure, but she doesn't see me. Not properly. Hermione sees too much. Always has. Even when she's furious with me, she sees right through me, which is maddening and terrifying all at once. Harry tried to change the subject after Hermione left, muttering about Malfoy again. He swears Malfoy's up to something with that vanishing cabinet. Says he's seen him looking pale and sneaking into the room of requirement. Hermione doesn't believe him, of course. I didn't know what to say. Part of me thinks Harry's right, he usually is. Another part wishes he wasn't. So here I am, caught in another fight that's not mine, with Lavender clinging to me and Hermione glaring holes through me, and Harry losing sleep over Malfoy. Sometimes I wonder if being keeper is easier than being their friend. At least on the pitch, I know what I'm supposed to do. The 30th of April, 1997. It's over. Me and Lavender. Done. I knew it couldn't last, but I didn't expect it to end the way it did, loud, messy, in the middle of the common room, with about half of Gryffindor pretending not to watch while hanging on every word. We'd been off for weeks. Ever since the hospital wing, really. She kept trying to smother me with sweets and pet names, and I kept dodging her, pretending to sleep or slipping out when she wasn't looking. Hermione hardly spoke to me, which made everything worse. Lavender knew it too. She'd glare whenever Hermione walked past, like she thought I was sneaking off to meet her in secret. I wasn't, but I wanted to. Tonight it came to a head. Lavender plopped herself down beside me on the sofa, hanging off my arm as usual, whispering 1-1 in that voice that makes my ears burn. I was already in a foul mood from losing a game of chess to Seamus, and when she started asking why I never spend time with her anymore, I snapped. Said something like, "Because you never leave me alone, Lavender. You don't give me space to breathe." That was it. She went quiet for a moment, eyes wide, then stood up and let loose in front of everyone. "So that's it, is it? After everything, after all the time I spent worrying about you in the hospital wing, you just throw me away? For her?" She pointed straight at Hermione, who was sitting by the fire, trying to look like she hadn't heard. The room went silent. My face went hot. I stammered that it wasn't about Hermione, that I just needed some space. Lavender laughed this horrible, sharp laugh, called me a coward, said she should have known I'd never be serious. Then she stormed upstairs to her dormitory, crying loud enough for the whole tower to hear. Hermione looked up then, just once. Not angry. Not smug. Just steady. She held my eyes for a moment, then went back to her book. Harry muttered something about finally under his breath, and Ginny smirked at me from across the room. The rest of the house pretended to go back to their work, but I could feel them all buzzing with it. So now I'm single again. No more 1-1, no more chocolate hearts shoved at me, no more lip gloss smears on my neck. You'd think I'd feel relieved, and part of me does. But another part feels empty. Lavender cared, in her own way. It was suffocating, sure, but she did like me. More than I deserved, maybe. And I hurt her. But if I'm honest with myself, really honest, it was never her. It was Hermione. It's always been Hermione. And that's the problem. Because she's furious with me, hurt by me, and I don't know if she'll ever forgive me. So here I am, lying in bed, listening to the whispers still floating around the tower. Lavender's crying upstairs. Hermione's pretending she doesn't care. And me? I'm just Ron. The boy who made a mess of it. Again. The 10th of May, 1997. Harry's gone mad. I mean, properly mad. And the worst bit? It actually worked. It started tonight when he pulled out that tiny bottle of Felix Felicis, the one he won back in September in Slughorn's very first potions lesson. The liquid luck. He'd kept it hidden all year, waiting for the right moment. Hermione always said it would be useful in a tight spot, something to keep for a duel or when you know who himself came knocking. But Harry just tilted it back and swallowed the whole lot before either of us could stop him. Hermione nearly fainted. She shrieked about how reckless it was, how he ought to save it, how it was a horrible waste on something as ordinary as wandering around the castle. Harry just grinned at her in that maddening way, like he knew something we didn't. He said this was the right moment, that the potion was telling him what to do. And then he came out with it. He had to go down to Hagrid's. Hagrid's! Of all places! I thought he was having us on, winding us up for a laugh. But no. He stood up, grabbed his cloak, and marched straight out of the common room as if heading to Hagrid's hut in the dead of night was the most sensible thing in the world. Hermione was furious, muttering about how the potion didn't literally talk to you, that he was just being impulsive. But I could tell, deep down, she was itching to know what would happen. Me, I just sat there gobsmacked. I've seen Harry do reckless before, but this felt different. Like he was walking around with invisible armor, like he couldn't imagine anything going wrong. We thought about following him, but honestly, there was no point. When Harry gets that look in his eye, the one that says he's already decided, there's no stopping him. So we stayed behind. I tried to do homework, though I mostly just stared at my parchment, imagining him striding across the grounds in the moonlight like some mad hero on a mission. It was late when he came back. Past midnight, I think. He strolled through the portrait hole looking smug as anything, his hair even messier than usual and mud on his boots. Hermione and I pounced straight away, demanding to know what happened. And it turns out, he did it. He got the memory. The one Dumbledore's been after all year. The one Slughorn's been hiding like his life depended on it. Harry said he and Slughorn went down to Hagrid's together. And that they ended up sharing a drink after Aragog's funeral. That was when Slughorn finally cracked. Between the fire whiskey, the funeral, and Harry's potion-fueled charm, he gave up the truth he'd been hoarding. I couldn't believe it. Months of Harry trying every trick in the book, Hermione pushing with logic and arguments, both of them getting nowhere. And in the end, all it took was a giant spider's funeral, a bit of alcohol, and some luck in a bottle. Figures. That's Harry all over. We begged him to tell us what was in the memory, but he wouldn't. Said it was for Dumbledore to see first. Which is fair, I suppose, but it drove Hermione absolutely balmy. She hates not knowing things, especially when it comes to Voldemort. Me, I'm desperate to know too, but there was something in Harry's face when he said, "It's bad." That was enough to shut me up. What stuck with me most was how different he seemed on the Felix Felicis. Calm, confident, almost cheerful. He wasn't second-guessing himself, wasn't looking over his shoulder for danger. Just certain. I almost didn't recognize him. And part of me, Merlin, part of me wishes I could feel like that all the time. Before a Quidditch match, before exams, before saying something to Hermione that might come out wrong. Just lucky. Just sure of myself. Maybe then I wouldn't muck things up so often. But another part of me wondered, what happens when the luck wears off? Does it all come crashing down even worse? Harry can't drink Felix every day. None of us can. He's off to Dumbledore tomorrow with the memory. Whatever's in it, it has to be huge. Maybe even the key to this whole war. And it scares me, knowing Harry's walking deeper into something that dark, even if it's for the right reasons. Sometimes I wish I could do more than just stand beside him. I watch him carry all of this, all the weight, while I just stand there, wand in hand, trying not to trip over my own feet. But that's the thing, isn't it? He's the chosen one. I'm just Ron. The 18th of May, 1997. Quidditch Cup and the Common Room match day felt wrong from the start. Harry stuck in Snape's detention, our captain absent, the Seeker's slot empty. We huddled in the changing room and shuffled the plan. Ginny took Seeker, and the rest of us promised to keep the scoreline tight enough that she could finish it whenever the chance came. I could hear Weasley is our king rumbling even before we walked out. Funny how the same song can feel like a threat or a lift depending on the day. First whistle and it all narrowed to angles and hands. The air was busy, bludgers hunting, our chasers grinding out goals, their lot trying to rush us into mistakes. I've had matches where the quaffle looks like a brick, Today it looked huge, like I could see the seams. 3 clean saves early settled my nerves, a 4th at full stretch had my left shoulder singing, and somewhere above me Luna, I think, was saying something on the commentary about Raxperts and confidence which, bizarrely, helped. We traded goals for most of it, but the gap never got silly. On the touchline McGonagall clutched her tartan like it was a talisman. Then it happened in a blur, a sudden dip in the wind, a flash of gold by the Ravenclaw stands. I think it was there, could have been anywhere, and Ginny knifed through traffic like she'd been born on a broom. 10 seconds later she had the snitch in her fist and the pitch exploded. The scoreboard swung, and with it the cup, Gryffindor champions. I don't remember the handshake, I remember Dean thumping my back hard enough to loosen a lung and Demelzar crying with relief. For once, I didn't feel like I borrowed someone else's gloves. We carried the noise all the way to the tower. Harry arrived late from detention, hair worse than usual, face set like he'd been chewing nails. The room split to pull him in, someone pressed a butterbeer into his hand, then the cheering sort of folded around him and Ginny at the same moment. He looked at me across the firelight. I looked back, and then he kissed her and the place went spare. I won't pretend I didn't picture hexing him once, months ago, but that felt like a different century. I gave him a nod that meant all right, then. Hermione was smiling in that way she does when the world finally matches what she knew hours ago. After the first wave of celebration, we did a quiet lap of the team stuff, Peeks and Coots still buzzing about a perfect double bludger feint, Katie talking a mile a minute, back and brilliant after W. Between the singing and the second round of butterbeer, I realized my hands had stopped shaking. Notes for later. I owe Harry for the lineup he left us and for the faith he put in Ginny at Seeker. We'll make the numbers work in practice once detentions end. For now, we've got the cup, the tower is still vibrating, and, for a few hours at least, the war stayed outside the windows. The 25th of May, 1997. The castle feels different now. Like it's holding its breath. No one says it out loud, but we all feel it, something's coming. Ever since Harry got Slughorn's memory, he's been quiet. Not sulking quiet, not moody quiet, worse. Determined quiet. He goes up to Dumbledore's office for hours, comes back pale, eyes burning, jaw set. Won't tell us much, only that he knows more about Voldemort than ever. Sometimes I catch him staring at the fire like he's seeing something none of us can. It scares me, if I'm honest. He's still obsessed with Malfoy. Even now, after everything, when Hermione keeps saying he's imagining it, Harry won't let it go. Says Malfoy's been working on something all year, sneaking into the room of requirement, looking half dead most days. And, truth be told, I believe him now. Malfoy looks worse every week, pale, dark circles under his eyes, like he's carrying a weight he can't drop. I hate him, I really do, but sometimes I almost pity him. Almost. Quidditch is over, but no one cares. Even the cup feels like nothing this year. The chatter in the common room is quieter, the laughter shorter. It's like everyone knows the walls aren't as safe as they used to be, even if they won't admit it. Hermione's been buried in her books, more than usual. Says it keeps her mind off things. I think she's scared, though she'd never admit it. Lavender's stopped crying every time I walk past, thank Merlin. Feels like whatever we had is properly over, though her glares could still melt stone. That's my fault. Can't pretend it isn't. As for me, I keep trying to picture the summer. The burrow, Quidditch in the garden, Mum fussing over us, Dad tinkering with plugs. But the picture won't stay. It keeps twisting into fire, smoke, curses in the dark. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe things will settle down. But I don't think so. Not this time. Dumbledore's working with Harry on something big, something dangerous. And if they're planning moves against Voldemort, then Voldemort won't just sit back. He'll strike. It feels like standing on the pitch before the Quaffle's throne, the whole stadium silent, every eye watching, waiting for the game to begin. Only this isn't a game. And when it starts, people are going to die. I don't know what I'll be when it happens. Brave? Coward? Dead? All I know is, whatever's coming, it's close. Too close. The 15th of June, 1997. I don't even know how to write this. My hands are shaking. My quill keeps blotting the page. Maybe if I write it down, it'll feel less like a nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. Too real. Dumbledore is dead. It started with Harry disappearing off with him. We knew something was going on. He had that look, the one that means he and Dumbledore are about to dive into something dangerous and not tell the rest of us. I told myself it would be fine. It's Dumbledore, after all. Nothing can touch him. He's the strongest wizard alive. He always knows what to do. He was untouchable. While they were gone, everything fell apart. Death Eaters got into the castle. Malfoy let them in. Harry was right all along, and none of us wanted to believe it. I hate myself for doubting him. The alarm went up, and we were in the middle of it before we knew what was happening. Spells flying, curses flashing, the castle echoing with screams and explosions. I fought alongside Ginny, Neville, Luna. Mad, isn't it, how it's always us? Not the Aurors, not the professors, but as students, standing shoulder to shoulder in the dark, trying not to die. I don't remember every detail. Just flashes. A Death Eater's mask gleaming in torchlight. Ginny hexing someone twice her size. Neville bleeding from a cut across his cheek but still swinging his wand like a knight. My own voice hoarse from shouting curses. The sick, cold thought in my head, this is war. This is real now. And then, the green light. The shout of a killing curse. And silence. We didn't see it happen. We were still fighting when it came, but we felt it. The castle seemed to stop breathing. Word spread fast, Dumbledore had fallen. Dead. When I finally saw him, lying still, it didn't seem possible. Not Dumbledore. Not him. He was supposed to outlive all of us, to be there at the end, when Harry beat Voldemort. He was supposed to be unshakable. Instead, he looked small. Old. Human. Harry was there, hollow-eyed, more broken than I've ever seen him. He told us Snape did it. Snape. The man Dumbledore trusted most, the one he defended every time we doubted him. My stomach turned when Harry said it. I still can't believe it, and yet I can. Snape's always hated Harry, always hated me, always hated everything that wasn't Slytherin. But to kill Dumbledore? To betray him like that? It makes me sick. After, the whole school gathered. No one spoke. Even Peeves was quiet. The sky seemed darker, heavier, like it knew what we'd lost. We raised our wands, thousands of little flames, pushing back the darkness for just a moment. I've never seen anything so beautiful or so heartbreaking. I keep thinking about what this means. If Dumbledore can fall, who's left? Who can stand against Voldemort now? Harry, I suppose. It's always Harry. He didn't say much tonight, just sat staring into the fire, jaw set, eyes empty. I wanted to say something, anything, but what words are there? Hermione cried into her sleeve. Ginny sat close to Harry, silent. Me, I just sat there, numb. The Barrow doesn't feel safe anymore, Hogwarts doesn't feel safe anymore, even the world doesn't feel safe anymore. The man we thought could never be defeated is gone. And Voldemort is still out there. I don't know what happens next. But I know one thing, nothing will ever be the same. The 30th of June, 1997. The funeral was today. The kind of day you don't forget, no matter how hard you try. It was warm, too warm for a day like this. The sun shone like nothing had happened, birds singing in the trees, the lake glittering like it always does in summer. It felt wrong. The world shouldn't look so normal when everything's broken. The whole castle turned out. Students, teachers, ministry officials, even creatures you don't usually see at gatherings. Centaur stood at the edge of the forest, proud and solemn. Hagrid was weeping so hard his shoulders shook, and half-giant though he is, he looked small carrying Dumbledore's body down to the lake. I'll never forget that sight, Hagrid bent under the weight of the man who'd once seemed to hold up the whole world. They laid him out by the water, white cloth over him, sunlight glinting off his silver hair. It didn't look real. Hermione cried into her handkerchief the whole time, Harry stood stiff and silent, and Ginny held his arm like she was the only thing keeping him on his feet. I wanted to cry but couldn't. My chest ached, my throat burned, but the tears just wouldn't come. The speeches blurred together. Ministry types talking about a great loss to our world, like it was just a headline. Even Scrimgeour showed up, looking grim and trying to act like he belonged. None of them mattered. The only voice I really heard was Professor McGonagall's, steady and sharp even through her grief. She spoke of him as a leader, a mentor, a friend. For the first time, I saw her falter. That scared me almost as much as losing Dumbledore. When they lowered him into the tomb, a white marble thing, rising up by the lake like something out of a storybook, a flash of light rippled across the water. Magic, ancient and final. He's gone, and Hogwarts will never be the same. After, people clustered in little groups, whispering. Some cried, some just stared into space. I heard Fleur tell Bill she wanted them to marry here, at the Burrow, as soon as possible, now that we know life is so short. Mum cried again at that, though this time not just from grief. I caught sight of Harry slipping away, eyes dark, jaw clenched. I went after him, but Hermione beat me to it. I heard him say he wasn't coming back next year. That he had to finish what Dumbledore started. That he was going after Voldemort, and nothing would stop him. My stomach dropped when he said it, even though I knew it was coming. Hermione argued at first, said he couldn't do it alone, that it was too dangerous, too impossible. But Harry didn't budge. And before I could even think, I said I was coming with him. Just like that. No hesitation. Because I couldn't let him go without me. He's my best mate. He's my brother in all but name. I can't stand by while he walks into danger alone. Hermione said the same. Of course she did. She'll follow Harry to the ends of the earth, and I'll follow them both. Even if it kills me. So that's it. 7th year, NEWTS, Quidditch, Hogsmeade weekends, none of it's happening. Not for us. We've got something bigger now. Something that feels bigger than everything. I don't know if we'll survive it. But I know I won't regret it. Because if Harry's going to face Voldemort, he won't face him alone. This is the end of Dumbledore's time. Now it's ours. The 2nd of July, 1997. The year's over. Feels strange to even write that because it doesn't feel finished. Not like other years. No trunks dragging down the corridors, no chatter about exams, no excitement for the summer holidays. Just silence, like the castle itself is holding its breath. I keep thinking about everything that's happened. Slughorn's stupid parties. Lavender and Hearth 1-1. Me nearly dying from poisoned mead. Maclagan ruining Quidditch. And then the end, the fight, the flames, and Dumbledore falling from the astronomy tower. When I line it all up in my head, it feels like 10 years crammed into one. I don't like who I was for parts of it. I hurt Hermione, even though I never meant to. I let Lavender turn me into someone I wasn't. I doubted Harry when I should have trusted him. I acted like a prat more times than I can count. But maybe that's what this year was, growing pains, mistakes that show you what matters most. And I know what matters. Family. Friends. Harry. Hermione. The people I'd die for, because one day I might have to. The castle feels emptier without Dumbledore. Like the walls themselves miss him. He always seemed bigger than life, always 2 steps ahead of everyone else. If even he could fall, what chance do the rest of us have? That thought's been gnawing at me, keeping me awake at night. But then I remember Harry, the way he stood at the funeral, shoulders straight even with the weight of the world pressing down on him. He's not giving up. And if he's not, neither will I. Harry's set on leaving, not coming back for 7th year. He says he has to find the Horcruxes, destroy them, and face Voldemort himself. It sounds mad, impossible. But I'll be with him. So will Hermione. There's no question. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. Sometimes I wonder if I'm ready. I've always been the second, the sidekick, the comic relief. But out there away from Hogwarts, away from the safety of Dumbledore and the professors, it won't be about jokes or keeping score in Quidditch. It'll be life and death. And I'll have to be more than just Ron. I don't know if I'll survive what's coming. None of us do. But I know one thing for sure. If this year has taught me anything, it's that the world is darker than I ever imagined. And the only way to stand against it is together. So here's to what's next. To whatever madness Harry drags us into. To the danger, the fear, and maybe even the end. I'm scared. I won't lie about that. But I'd rather be scared with them than safe without them. The year's over. But the real fight hasn't even begun. Ron Weasley's diary from his 6th year at Hogwarts takes us on a journey through one of the darkest and most transformative years of his life. From the very start of term, Ron is caught between his own insecurities and the rapidly escalating dangers outside the castle walls. We see him face the nerves of Quidditch tryouts, the constant shadow of being compared to others, and the strain of balancing his friendship with Harry and Hermione while trying to figure out who he is on his own. Through his words, we watch Ron stumble into a messy relationship with Lavender, driven more by pride and hurt than real affection. That choice causes friction with Hermione and creates some of the most painful moments between them. At the same time, Ron is nearly killed twice, first by a love potion gone wrong, and then by poisoned mead meant for Dumbledore or Harry. His survival is equal parts luck and loyalty, Harry saving him with a buzzer when everything could have ended. We also feel Ron's frustration when he's sidelined, missing his chance to play keeper while Maclagan makes a fool of himself on the pitch. Quidditch, for Ron, is more than a game, it's his one place of pride, and losing it to someone else stings worse than any curse. The diary also shows the slow unraveling of safety at Hogwarts. From Harry's obsession with Malfoy and the tension over the Half-Blood Prince, to Ron himself sensing that the castle is bracing for something terrible, everything builds toward the night of Dumbledore's death. The entry from June captures Ron's shock and grief at losing the one figure he thought could never fall, and the final reflections show a Ron who has grown from a boy caught in his insecurities into a young man ready to follow Harry into war. In Ron's own words, the diary isn't just a record of what happened, it's a portrait of his doubts, his humor, his loyalty, and the way he starts to see the world as it really is. By the end, we feel the weight of what's coming, and the courage it will take for him to stand beside Harry and Hermione in the fight ahead. Looking back over Ron's diary, what stands out most is how human he is. Unlike Harry, who is constantly pushed toward destiny, or Hermione, who so often finds strength in knowledge and control, Ron's story is about vulnerability. His diary shows us someone who desperately wants to prove himself, on the Quidditch pitch, in friendships, in love, but who is constantly battling the fear that he'll never measure up. The Quidditch entries, for example, aren't just about sport. They're about Ron needing a place to shine, a role that makes him more than just Harry's best mate or the youngest son in a famous family. When he's in goal, he feels like he matters. When he's forced out, whether by poisoning or McLaggen, the hurt cuts deeper than losing a match. It's about losing that fragile bit of identity he's managed to claim for himself. The Lavender subplot shows another side of him, pride. His relationship with her is messy, born out of jealousy and the need for attention rather than genuine care. It strains his friendship with Hermione and creates guilt that lingers even when it ends. But it also shows how Ron struggles with maturity, fumbling through emotions and relationships just like any teenager would, except that his teenage years are unfolding under the shadow of Voldemort. The poisoning episode is one of the most revealing moments. His birthday nearly becomes his death day, all because of a simple box of chocolates. It's both tragic and fitting. Ron, who always feels like luck is stacked against him, literally survives because of a buzzer Harry remembered from class. It's humiliating and terrifying all at once, and it leaves him questioning his own place in the fight. Finally, the later entries, when Harry's fixated on Malfoy, when Dumbledore is preparing for the worst, show Ron's slow awakening. He begins to realize the war is closing in, that Hogwarts isn't safe, and that even the strongest can fall. His words capture the shift from the ordinary concerns of school life, matches, grades, crushes, to the extraordinary reality of a world at war. By the end of the diary, Ron is no longer just the comic relief, no longer just the friend in the background. He's a young man on the cusp of choosing courage, knowing full well it may cost him everything. In that way, the diary isn't just Ron's 6th year, it's a turning point. A story of someone who starts as insecure, jealous, and unsure of himself, but who begins to realize that standing beside Harry isn't about being second best. It's about being indispensable. When we look back at Ron's diary from this year, it's hard not to wonder how differently things could have gone. What if Hermione hadn't confounded McLaggen during tryouts? Would Ron have made the team on his own, and if not, how much more would his confidence have suffered? What if Ron had died from the poisoned mead on his birthday? How would that have changed the trio's path? Would Harry and Hermione even have been able to face what was coming without him? What if Harry had shared Slughorn's memory with Ron and Hermione right away instead of waiting for Dumbledore? Would knowing the truth earlier have changed how they prepared for the future? And finally, what if Ron had walked away at the end of this year, too shaken by Dumbledore's death and too unsure of himself to follow Harry on the road ahead? Would he have ever found the strength to come back, or would the story of the trio have ended as just a duo? These are the kinds of questions that remind us Ron isn't just a side character. He's the heart of the group, the one whose loyalty, doubts, and choices shape everything around him. I'd love to hear what you think. Which of these what ifs do you find the most interesting? And are there other moments in Ron's 6th year that you think could have changed everything if they'd gone differently? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading them. So that brings us to the end of Ron Weasley's 6th year diary, a story full of mistakes, victories, insecurities, and moments of real courage. But, of course, Ron's journey doesn't end here. we leave him standing at the edge of war, ready to follow Harry and Hermione into a world far darker than anything they've faced before. If you've enjoyed walking through this year from Ron's perspective, there's so much more waiting for you. I've built an entire series that dives into the characters we thought we knew, showing us their lives in a way the books only hint at. You've just read Ron's private thoughts, now imagine seeing the same year unfold through Harry's eyes in Harry Potter's diary. You'll see how his decisions, his fears, and his moments of hope connect directly with Ron's, and together they paint a fuller picture of life at Hogwarts during one of its most dangerous years. And this isn't just about retelling canon. It's about deepening it. These diaries give us a chance to step inside the minds of the characters, to ask what they were really thinking when they weren't on the page. What did Harry feel as he carried Dumbledore's secrets? What did Ron think lying awake in the hospital wing, wondering if he still mattered to his team and his friends? What was Hermione's heart saying when her cleverness wasn't enough to fix the cracks between them? If you've been following the series, you know we don't shy away from the lore. Everything ties back to canon, the dates, the matches, the poisoned mead, the cursed necklace, Slughorn's memory, the funeral, the fall of Dumbledore. Each entry is grounded in J.K. Rowling's timeline, carefully slotted into the exact D. Haven't already, make sure to check out the rest of this series. Explore Harry's diary, compare it with Ron's, and see how the two perspectives overlap and diverge. And don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel, that way you won't miss when we move on to even more diaries, exploring other characters and other years at Hogwarts. Because at the end of the day, that's what this project is about, bringing these characters to life in a way that feels real, that feels personal, and that reminds us why we fell in love with this world in the first place. So tell me, whose diary should we open next?